Talking in Stations on June 11th, and we're here to talk about the recent Black Ops update, which includes the changes to the Covert Ops ships and the Edencom ships. And joining me today will be esteemed Blops, Hunter, and low-sec killer, Morg.
Hello, what's going on?
Esteemed Explorer, Nth Dimensional, Parcival Watts, Bombers by FC. And in the background we have Gagarin and Jason Xiaoxian.
Good afternoon, good evening.
Hello, everyone.
Opening up the recent changes, we can see that there are quite a significant bunch of changes for the Black Ops ships. The Black Ops ships are one of the only ships capable of using covert jumps, and also it has a lot of features for cloaking. It's used for hunting. It's a very expensive ship. Now, the Black Ops ships have been traditionally known for being generally weak in combat, but hopefully this changes things. These the Black Ops ships are usually used for, well, ganking in some way, not in high sec, but in low sec, in null sec, and they're used for hunting down especially large game. The first change, which is rather significant, which I've got on the screen, would be the Black Ops group jumps. Traditionally, when people use Black Ops ships as a bridging ship, they use it for bomber fleets. Now, one of the biggest issues in the past were when you were bridging large amounts of bomber fleets, you needed to have a dedicated Black Ops ship for simply utilitarian purposes. You couldn't use it for combat. It had to be fit purely for bridging, maximum cargo expansion. It even had to have its own fuel truck in cases where there were a large fleet. However, with this change, things are different because you will be able to group jump with a whole bunch of bombers and other covert ops capable ships. So now you don't need, well, for the larger bomber fleets, you may need a purely bridging Black Ops battleship, but for now, you can actually bridge yourself and a fleet all at once without needing to have a utilitarian one, which is, in my opinion, quite a waste of a wonderful ship. Now, and including with this is a huge rebalancing of the Black Ops battleships, which we'll get to in a moment. Now, Parcival, you do FCing for Bombers Bar. How does this change to the group jump and bridging affect bombers fleets in the future?
Well, this change is actually pretty huge for bombers fleets, especially one of the riskier parts of the bomber fleet actually is the extraction of the bombers after after killing the target, usually a Rorqual or a carrier. Before you would have to cycle the portal once you would have to cycle the bridge once, and then you could jump the Blops out. Usually, that's a 20-second process. Now with the new group jump feature, it's it's now just one cycle to just cycle the Blops and the bombers out at the same time, making it easy. Also, apparently, according to Reddit, the range for the group jump is 10 kilometers, which means that it is now actually theoretically possible to fleet warp a fleet onto the Blops, and then once the fleet lands, decloak and have the Blops directly group jump them out from warp, making it very simple for the making it pretty simple to basically jump the Blops out easy and have an easier extraction. For insertion ops, it still might be easier for, especially for larger fleets, to just use a dedicated bridging and just do bridging normally. However, for smaller fleets where the DPS might be helpful from the Blops, then definitely the Blops will help in defeating the target.
Morglim, you do Blopsing, but do you generally use the Blops bridge, or do you just jump to the location?
Honestly, it depends on the target because of the Sino changes with like only having to use Arazus and stuff like that. We'll sometimes usually bridge them around if we need a regular Sino somewhere, and we only have a covert on like a T3 or something like that.
I see. Do you think this will affect how you hunt and use Black Ops in low sec?
I mean, the reduced fuel cost will be nice.
I do have something up on the screen. This is This is an example of a Black Ops ship fit for bridging purposes. This is by Tree Newbie Ribbons, which he's very well known for flying a lot of expensive ships, and he's a great guy from my interactions with him. So you can see this, unfortunately, because he had to fit this Panther only for bridging purposes, he has pretty much no way to defend himself. It's purely cargo expander fit. Its sensor boosters to avoid getting probed down. And to me, it's a huge waste of just a wonderful ship.
Yeah,
See, it's full of hydrogen isotopes for bridging purposes.
yeah. The standard bridging blops is usually the Redeemer is preferred because the lowest lots mean that you can get more cargo than any other blops, but the only defenses it has are the micro jump drive and the sensor boosters.
To my regret, I once caught 2 Blop ships, and the one that we didn't want to hold it because we were worried about dying and the massive fleet that was there. If only we knew that it was the 2 Blop ships were, well, they were purely bridging fit, we would have stayed around to kill it. That's one of the ways that these fine ships were wasted in the past. But with this change, they've created this new group jump feature, but they've replaced the former cloaking device increased speed to a roll bonus rather than per level, and they've replaced a lot of the stats with other bonuses to the Blops ships, which is honestly seen as a buff. The Black Ops ships, Morglum, have they? Would you use them in combat against regular targets that can fight back, or do you try your best to overwhelm them?
Well, I mean, it depends if like we're in Sino range of our staging. I mean, if we can Sino a faction, then I mean it doesn't really matter. I mean, it's fair game. I mean, we Sinoed in on a dread with our Blops like not too long ago, and it was Hoff. Actually, I think it was cap gun. It was cap gun fit. So I mean, like you couldn't shoot really back because we were just orbiting. But I mean, so I mean,
Go on.
As a group that fights without ever having backup, it actually is potentially nice to have a Blops that could also sign in to help to jump in with the fleet to provide help, especially in taking down tankier targets that have a lot of cap. It's because most of the time we use a Redeemer for bridging purposes. With this new change, especially the bonus to NOS and newts, it would really help with neuting targets out, especially in NOSEC. But in the end, when it comes to huge fleets, I don't think a combat blocks will really help that much.
Morglum, what Black Ops ships do you fly?
well, I fly a Sin on my main and then a Panther on my alt, but I can fly a Panther on my main as well.
And which of the Black Ops ships before this patch did you fly the most or prefer the most in order?
Well, I mean,
best
I've always flown the Sin, but I mean, I got into the Panther after just like I don't know, a lot of people started to like the Panther a little bit more. And I mean, after watching like Gulnar and Flight Leader, whatever, I mean, Sin in person, but after watching videos like that, I mean, it kind of just like I don't know, you aspire to that, be like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. What's so great about the Sin? I know lots of people use it. Zgang Z, a friend of mine, Blops Hunter uses it. I know Marcel uses it. It's, well, one of the most popular Blops ships, but what's so great about it?
Well, I mean, it's basically like Balagorn that can jump through a Sino, except now that with the Redeemer changes, I mean, they're also basically going to be a Balagorn that can also now jump through a Sino. So, I mean, it's definitely going to be pretty interesting to see some of these upcoming Deemer fits and whether how many guns people will fit on the Redeemer.
The Redeemer change is interesting. They knock down a whole turret hardpoint, but they've doubled the per level bonus. So instead of 25 at level 5 Black Ops, it's 50% bonus. But they've added a new bonus to Energy Newt and Nosferatus, 50% at max level. Do you see the Redeemer being used more often?
I mean, Now, yes. I mean, the Redeemer was kind of useless except for DPS beforehand. The utility really wasn't there compared to like other things like the Panther or the Sin. I mean, the Sin's a great utility. Blops in general. I mean, especially now with this patch. I mean, like they'll have the logistics drone transfer amount. I mean, I think that's per level maybe. So I mean, like that'd be pretty crazy. I mean, you'll probably see people use logistic drones on Sins now maybe if they're jumping in with a fleet. But I mean, they're basically going to be more of a hospital now than they were ever.
Did you? Did you use hybrid turret guns on your Sin, or did you full fit it with newts like most people do?
Yeah, I got a full rack of newts, cloak, and then two armor reps.
Parcival, do you think the Redeemer will be used in bomber fleets where you can now effectively bridge almost a Balgorn, or if not, pretty much a Black Ops version of a Balgorn onto someone with this new neuting bonus that didn't exist before?
Honestly, I would say that depends on the target we're bridging on. If we're bridging on, say, a Rorqual and No, where we can use focus void bombs, there's honestly no point in bridging a Redeemer with it. But if it were low sec and we couldn't use focus void bombs, then there would definitely be a bonus to bridging Redeemer in. However, since Bombers Bar is a public organization, most people don't usually fly Redeemers in our fleets. Usually it's only one person at most, being the Blops, who's the only person flying Redeemer. Currently, we are in discussions about potentially letting certain people fly Redeemers. However, since it is public, we are concerned about AWOXing and similar. So it's potentially possible, but if we do it, it will be on a probably in the more elite type of fleet that's invite only.
That rate of fire bonus, I'm curious about. I see. I am without increased rate of fire, but one turret down. It'll make up for the damage, but obviously won't have as much initial alpha. But I'm worried about the rate of fire bonus. I hope it doesn't cause any cap issues to Redeemer pilots. I don't think it should.
They did. You don't have to worry about as many turrets.
Didn't they increase the Redeemer's cap as well, or did they? Because I know they were fiddling with like the changes this morning.
I think they increased the cap by 600.
Yeah.
Base capacitor is increased by 600.
Is that on on the Hobo Leagues?
That's in the.
It's it on the thing. I'm pretty sure.
It's
yeah,
in
on the
post.
official.
Yeah,
post.
capacitor. Refresh. Rich.
Oh, wonderful! They've factored that in. It now gets a nice capacitor bonus. That's wonderful to hear. Thankfully, they factored that in before the changes went in. I've very rarely seen people use blasters, or well, who would use rails on a Sin, but I've never seen people use blasters on Sins in general. I've always seen them full newt fit, but I'm curious to see how this is going to go now that it's given an increase to gun damage. I'm not sure about the logistics drone thing. I've never played around with logistics drones, but that bonus to tracking an optimum range on the drones, what is that for? Because you usually use a Sin on things like cruisers and above, right?
Well, I mean, I could only imagine that would probably be used to like fight off flight tackle better. I mean, that's pretty much the only thing I could really imagine. I mean, I've seen people fit tracking enhancers on Sins before because of that tracking, or like Omni tracking. What's the low slot module? It's a drone tracking low slot module. I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head, but they'll often fit some of that, or maybe one of those as well. So I mean, I don't know. It could be just for that.
Now the Panther. I like this Panther bonus. Now, for those in low sec, who've been targeted by some of Baltram's friends, they might have noticed a bunch of Redeemers running around with 1400 artilleries. Now, the reason for that is the Panther with 1400 artilleries performs ever so slightly better than a Redeemer, which is unbonused, but fitted with 1400 artilleries. Now the Redeemer's lost one turret slot, and the Panther's got this damage increase. This changes things. Before this change, the Redeemer, to my knowledge, was fitted with 1400 artilleries because they did almost as much damage as a Panther, but they had a wide array of better stats. They had better fitting, they had better capacitor, they had more health, and it was just a generally better Black Ops ship. But with this change, the Panther will absolutely deal more damage, and it's got a lot more tracking, a lot more fall off, which it previously didn't have. What's the deal with the Panther, Morgan?
Honestly, I think this whole buff was not, I'm not going to say not needed, but definitely it's in the right like direction, but I definitely don't think a buff to Blops is what's going to make people fly Blops.
I've spoken to Rusky and Baltram about some of the Blops changes before the stream. From what I've heard from Baltram is his concern with flying Blops and the uses of Blops right now. He feels that the Blops, the problem with the Blops are there's a lack of targets
Yep.
for that.
Yep. Yep.
What targets do you use Blops against?
I mean, we go against anything that's blingy, but I mean, like, we have a whole web of just like content that we can just catch people going in through entry, like low sec entry gates from high sec, and like gates like on and in stuff like that. And nothing comes through them anymore, dude. We used to get like freighters or like expensive DSTs, like, stuff like that. Nothing, not a single thing. Rattlesnakes, nah, unfitted.
And also with the bonus that it's giving bonus to the fall off range, which often refers to 800 instead of 1400.
800 instead of 1400.
Because long range guns are always referred for optimum range. So for short range guns, you will often see very little optimum range, but really far fall off range. There's a big difference there. And but so for short range guns, it doesn't matter what's your optimum. What's more important is your fall off. So therefore, increase the fall off range for 800 repeating, which will just definitely means more range for the Panther.
So it seems that the artillery Redeemer isn't dead just yet, especially since it's only a fall off range bonus.
I mean, Panther right now is one of the least used, I think, compared to the others. Just for these bonuses so far. But with the next one, we're going to talk about Widow, with a 4% shield resistant bonus. That one is the most tankiest out of all so far, we can see. With naturally 20% shield resistance. That one's going to, if you want a tanky Black Ops, that's the one to go.
Would you use a Widow in any of your ganks, Morg?
No, because we have facts, but realistically, I think the Widow is probably the best solo Blops right now.
With the new shield bonus it's about to get.
Yeah, well, that and the torps. Like, I mean, the torps go crazy, dude. On any ship that goes on.
The torps were about a year ago buffed, and now it's got this. Well,
it's just
50%.
I mean, nothing except for maybe of like Varger or like Paladin, stuff like that. The only Marauders would probably be able to tank it. Rattlesnakes would probably melt to it, probably like with enough Newt DPS, or not like Newt and DPS. I think you could probably break like rattles that are like wicked expensive these days with that fit.
Do you think the Widow will bite at the toes of the Sin for being the best solo Blops?
I mean, at this point, yeah, because I mean, like, it also has the ECM buff. I mean, so I mean, like, it could also be used to save hunters as well. If you can also use a cheaper hunter. I mean, if you're out in drone lands, it's really hard to get a hunter out there, and you don't want to die to some dude if he's in a blingy rattlesnake. You'd rather, have the DPS go onto your Widow if he's ECM'd out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because then you can tank
Same thing.
forever.
Same thing with Bombers Bar. One of our biggest losses, the fleet, are always the Falcons, which they're dime a dozen, and needless to say, they constantly get primaried off the field because they aren't tanky. We've tried making them tanky. We've tried giving them shield tank. We've tried giving them armor. It just never works out. So now with the new Widow changes, it is, and the bonus to shield res, it actually is possible to use a Widow to basically fill in the place of the Falcon.
This is dangerous though, because the more jammed you fit, the less shield mid slots which are vital for shields you have.
That James slot is more for burst gen projector, I think that's called, for extracting. I don't think people actually use Widow to fit multi-spectrum jammers on them. It's just
I
waste of
think it's a
tank.
possibility because the Dreadgarista's multi-spectral jammer is very cheap and it's quite effective. And for those tuning in right now, I'm Rich Richmond. We're joined by Morglum, who does a lot of blopsing, especially in low sec. Nth Dimensional, who does a lot of hacking and exploration, and Parcival Watts, who is a bomber spar fleet commander. In the background, we have Xiao Shen and Gregorin.
Yeah,
Now the final one. Go on.
I'm still not sure that the Widow will be viable as an ECM ship because you still have the big problem that ECM has had since that nerf a couple of years ago, that the target being jammed can still target the jamming ship.
This is a double-edged issue because the Widow being considered an ECM platform will, as a result, most likely gain, well, it has already a lot of mid slots, one of the highest amount of mid slots for a battleship. So for a solo player, they could potentially just ignore the ECM jammer strength, maybe fit a burst jammer for a lucky escape or something, but I think they can safely ignore that if they're going to use it solo.
That's how it's fitted right now, right? Most likely.
I would say you could fit a burst jammer on there just to get the heck out of there. I mean, I think you could even probably do that and an MJD and an MWD and still tank like a boss if you have crystals.
Now,
I mean, I'm more concerned about because most of the targets we drop on end up being either Fannies or Rorquals, so just fitting two Galente ECMs on the Widow would do a great deal in helping take down those targets.
Yeah, this really helps against if you're going to use Blops on carriers and, God forbid, super carriers if you're brave enough. Now, the elephant in the room, the big daddy of all of the Black Ops ships, the Marshal. We've all seen hopefully we've all seen the image going around of the polarized torpedo Marshal. For those who do want to fly it, be careful. This is the most expensive of all the Black Ops ships. Somebody's apparently bought out all of the Marshals in Cheetah as well, anticipating people would want to use this ship following the change. What's the deal with the Marshal? What's so special about it compared to the other Blops?
It's rare. It's one of the rarest thing you can get. It's called demand and supply.
It's also one of the best boxes just in the game. It has bonuses to everything. It has the same fuel bay as a Redeemer if you ever want to use a Marshal for bridging, which don't. That's a waste of is.
No one said slot layout yet, dude. There's so many freaking slots on the Marshal. It's actually ridiculous.
Yeah, although lore-wise, it was designed based on the Amar Empire's Apocalypse battleship. It's set up so it can be used for any Empire's equipment, so you can armor tank it, you can shield tank it, and you can use any kind of weapons.
All right. Morgan, do you mind if I pull up your Ezekiel and go through some of your
wait,
blopsing that
I
you've
don't
done?
know. I don't know if I want you to do that, boss. I just whelped a carrier this week. Honestly, go ahead. Whatever. I don't care.
Okay. We'll skim over them.
Oh, he's already got it pulled up, dude. He was prepared.
I see Aquila's got a Marshal. You're a dank guy in the Redeemer. Wow, you got the entire family on these jump freighters you've killed today.
Oh yeah, dude. We're Snuffed Out's alt alliance. Basically, yeah.
How quickly do these jump freighters go down?
I don't want to say, honestly.
Oh, I see. I see. Wow, these are
Like I could tell you how they died, but I don't want to tell you like how long we're on grid and stuff like that. You know what I mean?
oh, okay, very well. Have you solo hunted in a Blops ship in say in Nullsec?
Oh well, I mean, yeah, no, I've done that. Hold on, yeah, I guess, yeah, I have done that. Not since I've came back to the game, just due to the lack of targets, and blob everywhere. Everything's a blue donut. So I mean, it's pretty hard at this point, especially with the jump bridges. You could have a response fleet on you, like, I mean, probably not before you kill it, but I mean, especially now with the cloaking changes, I mean, I don't want to have to sit there and move systems every 15, 20 minutes because I'm going to get like decloaked with all these sino things, or not sino things, decloaking things. The mobile observatories.
Has that mobile observatory affected any friends you have doing blopsing or generally cloaky things?
Well, I mean, it hasn't affected us quite directly yet, but we're prepared.
Bomber Spar has historically relied on certain cloaked campers to provide targets during times where we usually can't find targets due to intel nets. Well, those cloaked campers aren't exactly working right now with the cloaking changes.
I see. Now, the covert ops frigates. I'm sorry to leave you so quiet for so long, Nth Dimensional.
Oh, that's okay. It's my time to shine.
Alrighty. I've heard from some of the wormholers that they quite enjoy these recent covert ops frigates changes. I'm sad to see that their combat bonuses are gone. There is no more blaster troll buzzard anymore.
No, but there is still the trolling heron. You can still do your combat T1 exploration frigates. They work almost as well.
What's the 15% capacitor change? How does that affect things?
That, to my knowledge, is completely useless. So, like, when you're in alpha or when you're very beginning and you don't have any skills, you sometimes run out of capacitor to initiate a warp. But when was the last time that you guys weren't able to warp due to capacitor? Unless you're like in Thera a lot.
I think there's a system in Geminate.
I know exactly what system you're talking about, but that one and a couple of systems in Pure Blind and Venal are. I've been through there a few
but those
times.
are incredibly rare. I don't know why we need to have less capacitor to warp. It seems like a useless addition. I guess it will help people that are just getting into covert ops ships, possibly.
Well, there is two interesting new bonuses with the ships traditionally known for, well, factions traditionally known for their higher speed. That would be Galente and Mimitar. They've gotten cloaked velocity bonuses, whilst the two factions known for their heavier tank, namely the Amar and the Caldari, they've gotten a scan bonus. They've also all gotten some slots increase. I know the Helios got a increased high slot.
Yeah, so the slot increases are I would say probably one of the most interesting things. They've moved it to, it's a lot more homogenized now, to where all of the Covop ships have 3 high slots, and then you have 2 of them that have 5 mid and 3 low, and then 2 of them that have 4 and 4.
You have the probe launcher, you have the cloak. What's the third high slot for?
Interdiction nullification is probably the obvious choice. Alternatively, your Covop's cloak, or your Covop's Sino field.
And what's with the low slots? Is that just to enable some more fitting space for the high slots?
I would just say that, like, to me, I felt like the Covop ships were not very useful, especially the Empire ones. The Pacifier is great, but the Empire Covop ships were in a pretty bad spot. Giving them an extra slot just gives them a lot more utility. If you really want, you could put on some damage mods in your low slots now and still go for it.
Now, which covert ops frigates do you usually use for your exploration and hacking?
I was the pacifier. I was not going to be using any Covop ships because I felt they were in a really bad spot. This definitely does help them, and now I'm feeling a lot more like the Anathema and the Buzzard are going to be the true kings of exploration because of the probably overlooked a lot, the scan deviation bonus. That is going to actually be pretty insane if you can utilize it pretty well.
Yeah, last time I did a lot of scanning, I kept a stock of anathemas and I used them mainly. And definitely I'm going to go with them.
What is the scan? What is scan deviation? Tell me about that.
Yeah, so it's a bit esoteric about what it actually is. There's a lot of weird, complex math, but in essence, when you scan, you get a result, and say you get just like a single dot result. That is where the signature could be, but it could also be in like a bubble around that, depending on what your scan deviation is. So a lot of times when, like if you're familiar with scanning, you'll scan a signature and then you'll go down two. Like if you're doing a 4 AU, you'll go down to a 1 AU. With a good scan deviation, you can go down like 3 ticks or even possibly 4 ticks with this new bonus. I don't know, it might be pretty crazy. And previous to this, there was only 2 ways to increase your scan deviation, or we'll say 3. There's skills, there's your mid-slot mod, and implants. This adds a new 4th option, which is going to be pretty cool.
Morgan, what do you use for combat scanning when you do hunting?
I mean, it depends if I have a scepter to like just like fling at people. But I mean, like Anathema is like pretty good when it comes to like probing and everything like that. But I mean, the Helios is going to be really interesting now, especially now that it has a high, an added high slot, because now it has 3 high slots, which means you can fit cloak, Sino, and then like a combat probe scanner or something like that. I couldn't get the words out there.
Yeah, that's also another thing. With the extra low slot, you could put in another coprocessor, which will help out fitting the combat scanners.
Yeah.
The thing about deviation. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, well, if you look at my Ezekiel, I've been mostly just doing support roles recently. But if you look at my Ezekiel, one of my favorite hunting ships is actually the Buzzard, due to the fact that it has its free high slots. Which now that every single ship has free high slots, of course it won't really matter much. But the free high slots was what made the Buzzard the best hunting ship of all the Covert ops.
I agree with that statement. I have used the Buzzard a lot.
I do believe one of Marcel's alts. Marcel is a notorious Black Ops hunter. This is his alt. It's not a secret. It is on Zkill. Do not kill me. But you can see all of his Buzzard losses, which he uses for hunting with. Now, well, it's now got a low slot, which I wonder what he can start fitting in that low slot to maximize its effectiveness.
I would say sensor booster, maybe. Scan faster.
I also use the Buzzard for bombing fleets, which is pretty CPU heavy. An extra co-processor or an extra ancillary power unit would really help in being able to actually run my Buzzard fit for bombing fleets.
Yeah, the Buzzard is notoriously low in fitting power, so having extra is good for it.
Do you think you'll be using the Anathema or the Buzzard more often for hunting, Morgan? Oh, Morgan vanished. Oh dear.
So, a note about the scan deviation is that when you're hunting, a lot of times I feel you're looking for first pass victory. So deviation's not going to actually help at all with that at all. If you don't hit your target, if like you don't get a full scan resolution so you can warp to them, it will help. But if you're looking for larger ships, then that bonus is kind of useless.
Yeah, deviation won't help much in either bombing fleets since you're already at 0.5 AU on the probes, or for hunting fleets. But it will help for exploration.
Yep.
at least actually going through those chains will be somewhat easier now.
Will you be using the buzzard for a lot more hunting, Morgan?
Nah, not right now. If I would go back to nullsec, yeah, but right now I'm sticking with lowsec, and I'll just get blasted by gate guns or something like that. And if I have to
What's
put in a DD,
what's the problem with hunting right now? The lack of use for Black Ops ships.
yeah, there's just no one out, and I don't know exactly what's going on with it. I mean, player count hasn't dipped down too much, so I'm honestly not exactly sure.
What?
Honestly,
I see. What targets do
think
you
it was-
usually see in the past?
I mean, like we see like not just JF specifically, but like rattlesnakes and like stuff like that, like blingy or like DED runners. Like there's not even really a lot of DED runners anymore in the area, and we're close to Jita, so I mean, like we're probably the most popular spot. I mean, the other day I killed a 3-bill Tengu, but I mean, like that's like a once in like a while like thing that doesn't really happen that often.
And
that
what
was-
happened? Oh,
Yeah, I found my
this Tengu
latch.
wasn't a Black Ops kill, unfortunately.
Yeah, no, but I mean, I still used the Lachesis and I used my Black Ops strategies. I mean, I was just in system, so it kind of helped. But
And also, I think the Black Ops ships are not that tanky compared to other battleships with similar price range for the Marauders. It's really easy to get blapped for now, I think. If let's say people jumping Howard Reds when you're dropping on oracles, usually people go for Blops first, then frigates. They cost way more compared to frigate, so it's really easy to lose them in some cases.
During this whole thing, I believe apparently Chosa, one of the major FCs in Pandemic Horde, made a statement on Reddit about the changes to the Black Ops ships. Detailed in this thread, enter the portal or missing it entirely. Has anybody got any thoughts on the what he said about the group jumps and rebalancing? He speaks of the
I haven't read it, so nope.
oh,
yeah, no, I haven't even read it yet. I'm sitting here reading it right now.
Blopsing is
Same.
a bit of a foreign concept. Blopsing is a bit of a foreign concept for me, but I do remember it was. I just found it comical that this entire ship was just wasted purely as a bridge when it's just it could be used in combat in so many more viable scenarios.
Yeah, the biggest problem that keeps it from being used more is that it's so expensive. Like for most,
How much is it right now?
And their ability to stay on grid is not really that good either. I mean, like dropping on a Rorqual right now in nullsec is definitely not viable in a Black Ops. If you do that and you don't have like a Sino beacon down, even then you're risking everything because Ramjag can get to you in 5 seconds because of the friggin' Ansiblexes.
And plus the bomber heavy fighters, those can release micro bombs. It's really deadly to stealth bombers as well. We have used that a lot. So basically, you sino in super carriers on grid and use those heavy fighters, Howard heavy fighters, to release bombs, and they're really deadly to those stealth bombers.
Yeah, I could see on this thread, Chosa, what Chosa said as well, agrees with you completely. It's the Black Ops ship is too expensive. It's not really good in any scale of engagement. It's that you could do so much more with so much cheaper. But it seems that he is happy to see there are changes and buffs to the Black Ops ships.
yeah, for large fleets, you should be using bombers usually, and for medium and small fleets, most of the time you're more effective if you're just bridging cruisers for a cheaper fleet with which can get more stuff done.
We don't actually know just how many ships you can bridge at once with the group jump feature, but to my knowledge, if you wanted to bridge mass bombers, you will not be able to use this group jump. You have to resort to the old method of opening up a bridge and then having a fuel truck ready. This group jump feature is not suitable for extremely large fleets.
Well, that actually is somewhat suitable for extremely large fleets, but only for the extraction purposes. For entering, yes, of course, it's much. Extraction is just a huge issue when it comes to these fleets. It's nice to just be able to instantly extract an entire fleet that quickly.
Yeah,
the 10 kilometer radius too, which is honestly pretty broken.
When they added that, when they put that group jump thing in the announcement, my first thought was that it would make extraction a lot easier. Like, I've been in so many fleets where the Blops pilot that reminded us that the bridge would only be up for a single cycle and we don't have to be reminded of that anymore.
It's also a bit of an issue since before what happened is you have a fleet land on grid, you have the Blops uncloak within like basically the instant the fleet lands. The portal goes up, everybody jumps. Now it's just easier. You can just have the Blops uncloak while the fleet is landing. Then once the fleet lands and everybody's uncloaked, you can just directly. The Blops only has to click one button and the entire fleet is gone. Well, most of the fleet is gone, anyways.
Do you use
I'm just excited for people to mess this up.
Oh, so many people have accidentally.
Oh yes.
Ay.
Oh yeah, this will be funny when people make mistakes.
Definitely, one day during one of these fleets, somebody's going to accidentally, for an insertion, accidentally click the Black Ops group jump instead of the bridge, and we're going to lose bridging Blops pretty quickly. I'll give it, say, 2 weeks.
Do you use additional bombers in your fleets and ganking, Morgan?
Nah. Most of our pilots we all multi-box on like carriers and blops and supers and stuff like that. And then, we just use actual just because we have a smaller amount of dudes, we usually use this, the more throwaway ships for when it comes to like eyes and stuff like that.
Yeah, your use case it feels to me like the only use case. Oh, the stuff that you guys do, what traditionally Wrecking Crew did, feels like the only use case that the Blops battleships are preferable over cruisers or frigates.
Can Blops battleships take the Blops bridge from another Black Ops before this patch?
No.
Oh, so it had to jump manually. Okay.
The only...
The reason being, Blops can't fit a cover-up cloak.
I see.
So you can only bridge ships that can fit cover-up cloaks. So it includes Asteros and the Stratios from Sisters of Eve.
You know what? I'm actually really scared now because you can have like a Loki fleet and you can jump it all at once rather than have a delay.
It's all good. T3s are trash. Don't worry.
Yeah.
And they're expensive.
I very much doubt a T3C fleet will end up being the end of you.
Honestly, dude, CCP really, if they really wanted to affect Blops hunting, put a freaking Sino back on T3s.
And also you have to remember a lot of times, for example, if you're bridging, let's say, a T3 fleet, you're better off to have a Titan ready, let's say just for big groups, for a regular Sino and bridging a hack fleet instead of a T3C fleet. It's more effective in that way for big battles.
Honestly, CCP just wants to actually make hunting somewhat viable again and not just ends up being a game of who can out DPS the other or survive longer until reinforcements arrive. Just please buff mobile silent hits, give them resistances, give them a shorter anchor time, please.
But even with that, like you're not going to anchor like that fast either. Like we can, the correct way to just Sino in. So I don't know, just for people who doesn't know the right way to rescue a Roko, you put a Sino up about 100 kilometer away from the Roko, Sino in a Titan or a big ship in, blab away the Sino in hip, and then right beside the Roko is Sino in your entire fleet of either hacks or supercarriers. That's a way to rescue a Oracle.
What's curious is now that the whole Black Ops speed bonus that you get from cloaking, no more. You don't need to train Black Ops to get a speed bonus, but you do need to train Black Ops for the other bonuses, I presume. The 650 bonus to max velocity is now a roll bonus, which is... I'm not a fan of roll bonuses, but I don't think it'll affect anyone too much, right?
That's going to affect the marshal a lot, I think. So if you have your microdrive on, like X type microdrive on, and you turn on your cloak, you can get like a 10k plus with that instant, because you suddenly get 625% boost, and then you slow down after that.
All right, and now we're on to the final change of the entire patch: Vorton projectors.
The best change, clearly.
I'm not a fan of the Edencom ships. I am aware that Horde has an entire doctrine surrounding it, but this is 5 to 10. This is double the targets. Now it can vaporize 2 sets of drones rather than 1 set of drone. Good Goran, I know you've been running the Vorton projectors, but what are you allowed to say about the whole thing?
I'm not one of the big theory crafters, so I don't really know what the plans for this doctrine are. I do know that when Gobbins announced it originally in December, he said that it was planned for the frigates to go up against hack fleets, but then when we actually ended up using it, that was around the time that the Imperium had stopped defending the Helm's Deep area and only was sending out interceptor fleets, and then it proved to be very effective at dealing with those, and so effective that they ended up just not sending those out anymore. And so I'm not one of the big theory crafters, but I do know that we've recently been including the cruiser in our Eagle fleets, as well as the use of the frigate as a doctrine ship. So it'll be interesting to see what we actually do with this.
I'm getting messaged by Aquila, who is also a Blops hunter. I believe you are acquainted with him, Morgan.
He's trash.
He's messaged me stating that yes, you can jump through a Blops bridge using another Blops, apparently.
Yeah, you
I had
can.
no
It's just
idea.
not efficient because you use a tremendous amount of fuel.
You can, but why would you do that?
Yeah, why? Unless you don't have JDC 5. I mean, that's the only reason.
Why would you fire Blops if you don't have JDC 5?
Don't you need JDC 5 to train Blops?
No.
No.
You only need JDC 4, I think.
Why would you...
Wait a minute, but okay.
Why would you ever
now
fly anything that has a jump drive without JDC 5?
The curiosity is, does this group jump work with the Black Ops ship? If it does, this is scary. Now you can fly... we'll have to see once it hits the patch. We have to see. The changes are already on Singularity. You can go in there and test it out yourself. And we already have the patch notes on HoboLeaks. So if anybody wants to take a look at what's going on in HoboLeaks and the specific details, they are all there for you. But I don't wish to bore you with the numbers. Shen, what other events has happened today?
I guess I'll mention one more thing about the patch. The devlog. It didn't mention pacifier. I don't know. I think we didn't mention this before, but the pacifier got left out, I think, compared to all the other explosion frigates.
Refreshing.
We were actually talking about that this morning in pub chat on TIS Discord.
Holy hell, they missed out the pacifier. There's no bonus to the pacifier.
Yeah.
I don't need. It doesn't need a bonus.
Yeah, it's already the best ship.
It's paper thin.
Oh, and by the way, on the Black Ops group jump, it specifically says that Black Ops group jump passengers are limited to classes which can fit a Covert Ops cloak. Blops unfortunately cannot fit a Covert Ops cloak.
Never mind.
Well,
This
we're gonna have to
Yeah, that's what I
becomes
said.
useless for me then.
we're gonna have to jump through a bunch of legions then next time.
No, like if you're jumping in legions, like what's the point? Like if you're just,
Nobody jumps T3C fleets
yeah,
anymore.
no.
Not anymore.
It's
Sadly.
first of all fuel, second of all, like just why? Why doing T3Cs right now?
He wants to feed his skill points.
If you want to
yeah,
talk
like-
about who's getting left out of the exploration world, talk about the Astero. They don't get anything here. They don't have any interdiction nullification. They're trash now.
They're
Oh,
really
God.
good ships.
They're still
but,
They're still the best like hunter for if you want to kill like people in relic and data sites, I would say.
yeah, they're great for
Yeah, if you want
hunting
to do it with a
explorers,
frigate, yeah.
and they're great for bridging in along with your torpedo bombers for tackle and for shooting stuff that torpedoes don't apply well to.
Wait a minute, I just realized something. Von Hol can bridge in his tackle Asteros and his Blops all at the
Bro,
same
he's
time
gonna
with no
know your-
delay.
He's gonna know your location. Chill.
Oh no. Oh god.
Oh, also, can we talk about how the Astero is the only one that can't fit a Covert Sino?
Oh yeah,
Not a
they
co-op
removed
ship.
that. Removed that a while ago. Thank God. That thing was a terror. Shen, tell me about. We'll wrap this up. Tell me what's happened
yeah,
today.
it's a Komodo, yes. So in Veil of Silent, today, the second Komodo ever lost in on Tranquility was lost by Fraternity, or killed by Snuffed Out. So I think there's a footage that we should be putting up right now, I think, by Snuffed Out, since they sent on YouTube.
You just
So
grab
yeah, so, I mean, okay, I can talk about the fit first. So the fit is a standard fit, and we can see on the kill mail that it just got out of the gate. 35 kilometers, I think got bumped a little bit maybe. But in the video, you can see that there's a lot of dictors, and I think Snuff was ready with a Sino, a Razu with their dreads on docking in low sec. So that's the thing with Veiled Silent. Just geographically, it's closer to low sec. Is better for farming right now, but it's very open, so people can drop in from all over the place for Veiled Silent. So basically, they got a wait, not this one. This is not the right one.
No, this is the right one. This is the right
Is
one.
this
You
the
can
right
see
one? Oh,
yeah, it's
the
difficult to
ones that-
watch
yeah.
Eve's thing, but it's on the Snuffed Out YouTube channel.
Yeah.
I believe the person recording this is. I'd like to say it's Giannis, but it might be someone else. But yeah, we've got front row footage to see the Komodo die, and in the video you can see him multi-boxing about 5 accounts.
Yeah, so a few things are surprising. First of all, the Komodo didn't open its phenomena, I think, even until the end. If it did, then you get like a 30% shield increase, which can make it can make a big difference with like 20 to 25 million HP with a 30% boost. That's like 1/3, like another 5-6 million in HP, which there's a chance that you can wait until the reinforcements arrives.
I have a feeling the reinforcements did not arrive based on what I'm seeing right now. It's already into army.
So for Snuff, they ended up losing like 100 bill in dreads.
Yeah, this is quite an impressive tactic. The guy he warps straight onto the keep star and puts a bubble up. You don't usually warp to keep stars, but by putting the bubble up, he completely prevents any kind of backup from undocking and being effective.
Yeah, that's
Sadly, the
suiciding
footage is
hits.
short, but I am aware that quite a lot of the revelations and other dreads got out during this.
Yeah, so Komodo is the Dread Guristas, or Guristas Titan class ship, the special ship, and the first one was lost in I think 2013 or something like that by test. And actually, the ironic thing, or sort of the ironic thing, is test that Komodo was killed by fraternity, and this Komodo was lost by fraternity. So yeah, just something interesting, I guess. We can see here that Snuff lost about 100 bill in dreads.
Yes, and the Komodo, for anybody's interested, is at this point, I'd say priceless. The people listed at 500 billion plus, I don't even know where to begin. I have heard news, apparently the pilot has already planned replacing the Komodo immediately using the Plex he's going to purchase. So we shall see. Hopefully he's a lot more careful with it next time.
I mean, the fitting and everything is right on with the standard fits. With of the hardeners was the Concord capital shield extenders. Maybe the low slot. I don't know if this is the way that fraternity standard fit, but for us, we fit everything with Caldari Navy power diagnose system. So for full on HP.
Yeah, this people have been wondering why there aren't more purple mods. To my knowledge, isn't the officer shield hardeners either slightly worse or pretty much equal to the A types?
I don't know about that, but I think you should have a officer damage control at least, or at least a abyssal one that's like full on green with faction based. And in high slot, he has a jump portal. If it's ready, or he has a Nestor out. So if you look at his kill board, he didn't have a Nestor out. So if he did, he could fit on a Lancer or a Lance or what is it called, the Doomsday. So I can take out a few more dreads with him on his way down.
I'm afraid he does not. He did not have a Nestor fit at all. He did not lose a Nestor. Nothing was dropped. He was in high grade Nirvanas.
Yeah, that's standard high grade Nirvanas with 707 the shield management one, which gives you 7% extra 7% extra shield.
Hold on, I'm wrong. He did have a Nestor. He did not drop it.
Yeah,
it seems either the wreck was destroyed or it was recovered, but it's tragic. He didn't even have a DD fit either. So
he has it in the cargo. So.
Right, he has it in the cargo, but not fit onto the ship.
He's probably too panicked at that point.
Yeah, it's scary when that happens. I wish him the best if he replaces it.
What was he doing that got him caught off tether?
Gating it. He was gating it.
Why?
No, this is the test one. This is a test one.
This is the test one. Shoot! I made a mistake.
This is the test one. That's what I thought. He shouldn't have
He didn't have a Nester. He did not have a Nester.
Yeah,
let me correct. He didn't have a Nester. Yes, he was gating it before downtime.
Yeah.
But well, I believe that's all we have time for. This is Rich Richmond. I'm here with Morglum, who is from Volta. Does a lot of Blopsing. Nth Dimensional. Congratulations on the recent partnership on your stream.
Yeah, we're partner now. Woo!
And you can check out his stream. Go ahead and link it in the chat. He does a lot of hacking and exploration. And we have Parcival Watts, who is a Bombers by FC, a good friend I've flown with in the past. And in the background, we have Xiaoshen, Jason, and Gogoran, who've been on the show today. But that's all for today. We're going to be raiding Open Comms, so those who were expecting Matterall, he'll be there. I will not be. And see you next time on Talking in Stations.